everyone, my name is Rachel. Welcome back to my channel, and today we are here to chat about all things romantasy, fantasy romance. I'm also going to be talking about series that are more so fantasy, but they have romantic subplots. Like, we are talking about all of the fantastical romantic books and series, and I'm so excited because as soon as I saw that this book tag was going around and I saw the questions, I knew that I had to do this video myself. I will link the original creator of this tag down in the description below. Unfortunately, I don't remember who that is, so I'm sorry. I'm gonna put their name here, and like I said, I'm gonna link them down below, and I'll also list all of the questions down below as well. I also am gonna talk about like fantasy romance fan fictions in this video. I am just happy to be here, happy to be yapping about these books with you all, because I am totally in a fantasy romance mood right now, and I don't think that's going to change anytime soon. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump right on into the questions. First up, we have, what was your gateway romantasy book? So this question took me a while to come up with an answer for, because I really had to go back in my reading journey and think about what was the first fantasy series that I read that I like got really invested in that also featured romances. And so the series that came to mind for me is the Shadowhunter Chronicles by Cassandra Clare. This is a whole universe of book series. The first series is the Mortal Instruments, and then you get into the Infernal Devices, and then this is the third series in that world. So I'm just holding up this book because I'm gonna pick this up really soon. I've been rereading all of the Shadowhunter books recently, so this is the next one in my rereading journey. But yes, I first and foremost adore the world that this takes place in. This is an urban fantasy, so it takes place in our world, but there are Shadowhunters. We have vampires, werewolves, warlocks, fae, and I just love the way that Cassandra Clare writes this world. I'm absolutely obsessed and invested every time I read one of these books, even though I've really only given a couple of books in this universe 5 stars. Most of them are more like 4-star books, but I just really love this world. The characters, there are so many dynamic and amazing characters. The romances, of course, that's what we're here to talk about, right? Fantasy romance. I am just in love with all of the romances featured in this universe, because in every series, Cassandra Clare writes at least like 3 or 4 romances for you to root for. And I just love reading series like that where I'm just equally invested in all of the romances. So yes, I would definitely say that the Shadowhunter Chronicles was my gateway for sure. All right, question 2 is, what is the longest romantasy book that you've read? So I have 2 answers for this. For the longest romantic fantasy novel that I've read, that absolutely is going to be Kingdom of Ash. Look at this brick. You could hurt someone if you threw this at someone, right? Absolute insanity how long this book is. This is 984 pages. I have read this book twice, and I will reread this book several more times throughout my life, and we'll get to why later in this video. But yes, we have this. And then for the longest fantasy romance fan fiction that I have read, that goes to Secrets and Masks by Emerald Slytherin. This is a very dark wartime Hermione fan fiction, and it is a little over 450,000 words, which is longer than Manacled. Manacled is about like 300-ish thousand words, so that should tell you something. This was quite a commitment for me to read. I remember it took me like quite a few months to get through, because I was also reading this while reading other books at the same time. And yeah, I will say this was a 5-star fan fiction for me. I absolutely love this one. But yes, very long, definitely a big commitment to get through for sure. Next up, we have, what is an underrated romantasy more people need to read? I have 2 series that I want to bring up for this question. These are series that I have ranted and raved about recently because I completed them in 2024. But first and foremost, Hidden Legacy by Ilona Andrews. I will never ever shut up about this series until more people pick it up. This is just one of the best urban fantasy romance series that I have ever read. There are 6 books, and then there's a novella connecting the 2 trilogies together. It just has such a unique feel to it, a very interesting magic system. I love that we have one trilogy that focuses on Nevada, and then the next trilogy focuses on Catalina, who's her younger sister. So we're following the same family throughout this whole series, and I just love all of them so much. The love interests in this series are like top book boyfriends for me. Absolutely obsessed. Then my other underrated series would have to be the War of Lost Hearts trilogy by Carissa Broadbent. I know that a lot of people know who Carissa Broadbent is, especially because of her Crowns of Nyaxia series, but I feel like not nearly enough people have read this amazing, incredible romantic fantasy trilogy. The romance in this, it's more of a friends to lovers vibe. It's everything. Truly one of the most beautiful romances I have ever read. The war and fantastical plot is incredibly epic and mind-bending. Like, I really felt like the last couple books in this series like broke my brain at times. It is just top-notch, absolutely top-notch. I really need more people to pick up these books for sure. Next up, we have what is the longest romantasy series you've read? I would go with the Shadowhunter Chronicles series. They're all like separate series within the same universe, but they also are kind of interconnected. So I think I'm gonna go with this. I would say that there's at least like there's like 3 trilogies within this series, and then another series of 6 books plus like several novella bind-ups, so you can do the math on how many books that is. But I've read pretty much all of these at this point. I think I just have 2 books that I haven't read, so yes, a lot for sure. Next question is, what is a romantasy that you feel is worth the hype? And absolutely, I think that is the ACOTAR series by Sarah J. Maas, the Court of Thorns and Roses series. I will go to my grave saying that I really do think this book is worth, or this series rather, is really worth all of the hype that it has gotten, even since blowing up on Book Talk. Because I think, especially with the Court of Mist and Fury, book 2 specifically, this is really one of the main blueprints of what fantasy romance is now. If ACOMAF didn't exist, I don't know that fantasy romance would have blown up the way that it has, especially on Book Talk. And I don't know that the genre would be the way that it is. This series truly is a game changer for the genre, and I will always be so thankful to Sarah J. Maas for that. This is not my absolute favorite series by her. Throne of Glass is, for sure, but I absolutely recognize the role that these books have played on the fantasy romance genre, for sure. Next up, we have, what romantasy has your favorite romance? Okay, I'm gonna go with the Throne of Glass series by Sarah J. Maas. Like I just stated, this is absolutely my favorite Sarah J. Maas series. It is also my absolute favorite romantic fantasy series as well. I wouldn't categorize this as fantasy romance because at the end of the day, this is YA fantasy, but there are some really great romances that serve as subplots for this series. But when I think of Throne of Glass, as much as I adore Aelin and Rowan, like they are truly a top tier couple for me, there is something about Elide and Lorcan that has a very special place in my heart. And every time I've read this series, I fall more and more in love with them as a couple and just like their dynamic and how they fall for each other. It's everything. And it is so much a subplot in this series. I wish it was featured more, but it's not. And like, I find myself just thinking about them every now and then and just smiling, and they're not even real people. Like, what is happening? But also, my other like top favorite fantasy romance couple in terms of fan fictions would absolutely be Dramini. Ever since I read, let me get this out. There are so many books by me right now. Ever since I read Manacled by Senlin Yu, which is a very, very dark Dramini fantasy romance story. I cannot get Draco and Hermione out of my head. Nearly every Harry Potter fanfiction I've ever read is a Dramini fanfiction, and I have so many more on my TBR. I truly cannot stop. The definition of can't stop, won't stop is how I feel about Dramini. I am obsessed. By the way, if you're curious about this copy, this stunning copy, this was gifted to me by Mel from Mel Binds Fics. This is absolutely gorgeous. One of my most prized possessions for sure. And I am so excited to see that Dramini has found its way into like the traditional publishing world. Like, in case you didn't know, Senlin Yu is publishing Manacled as Alchemized. She is revamping the story so it no longer has to do with Harry Potter, essentially. Very excited about that. I think that's coming out in September. There's also Rose in Chains, which is going to be by Julie Soto. That is a revamp version of The Auction, which I very recently read and absolutely loved as well. So again, that's a Dramini fan fiction that she revamped into its own original story. And like, I just love that Dramini is finding its way in the real world. Like, that is just so exciting. So yes, like truly a top tier couple that isn't even canon. So the next question is, what is your favorite cover for a Romantasy book? I absolutely could have gone with these covers that I have of Sarah J Maas's books. These are from the Dusty shop. I will leave a link to their shop down in the description below, but I really wanted to go with covers that are not like special edition, you know, just books that you could go to the bookstore and buy, right? Or go on Amazon or, you know, somewhere online and buy. So the first one absolutely is the War of Lost Hearts trilogy, once again by Carissa Broadbent. This cover in particular, like, absolutely stunning. Oh my God, look at Tasana. She's beautiful. She's a badass. I'm obsessed with her. And the covers for the other two books of this series are also stunning, but I just really connect with this first book cover for sure. And then I also wanted to shout out Divine Rivals by Rebecca Ross. This is a YA fantasy that has a romance subplot, and this is the UK cover. I got my copy from Waterstones. I would think that these editions are still available. I don't think this was a special edition, but these covers are so much more stunning than the US versions. I find the US versions are just very boring, but like, look at this cover. This like perfectly represents the story inside. Next up we have, what is your all-time favorite Romantasy book or series? That is hands down Throne of Glass by Sarah J Maas. I know that I've mentioned this series already in this video. These books, this story, these characters will always have a special place in my heart. I could absolutely see myself reread this series over and over again until I die. This is just top tier, God tier for me personally. For me personally, I truly feel like no series will compare to the Throne of Glass series. My love and my attachment, my emotional attachment to this series, like, truly knows no bounds. I adore the cast of characters that we are following. I love that there are multiple romances featured throughout, and I am pretty equally obsessed with all of them. Wow, the journey that you are taken on from this first book to the end of Kingdom of Ash is nothing short of epic and stunning, beautiful, heart-wrenching. I feel every emotion ever when I am reading this series. And now I want to reread this series again. I have read this series twice and now I want to reread it again. And I'm so excited because Graphic Audio is producing audiobooks for this series. So that's going to be a really cool way for me to reread these books at some point. All right, we just have 3 questions left. The next one is, what is the last Romantasy book that you read? I am currently reading Glow by Raven Kennedy. This is book 4 of her Plated Prisoner series. I am so close to the end, you guys. I have like 100 pages left, and oh my god. My love and obsession for this series is just like unreal at this point. I did not expect to love this series as much as I do. I was not ready. I was not prepared for this series. I talked about these books a little bit in my previous video about series that I'm currently reading that I want to continue in 2025. So I'll link that up in the cards above. But oh my god, this series is so good. And I feel like not nearly enough people have read or like talked about the later books of this series. I've seen a lot of people pick up Guild, but I think a lot of people are turned off by the series after reading that book, and I can see why, for sure. That book is dark. There's no romance in that first book. Like, it's a very, very different vibe from the rest of the series, for sure. So if you are someone who is in that boat, like, please, I implore you to pick up Glint. Please, 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 please. Because, oh my god, book 3, which is Gleam, is absolutely one of the best fantasy romance books I've ever read. This book is also amazing. I am obsessed. The romance, oh my god, don't get me started, because Auren, our main character, I adore her so much. The character development and the journey that she goes through from book 1 to where she is now, where I currently am reading, it's like night and day. She has grown into such an amazing and strong person, and I love her. And then we have Slade, our male main character, her love interest. And let me tell you right now, Rhys from ACOTAR walked so Slade could run a full-ass marathon. And I am not exaggerating. This man is not only perfection, he is beyond perfection. He's like if you combined Rhys with Rowan from Throne of Glass, but like he's on his own level, my dudes. I was definitely not ready for Slade. Oh my god. And the audiobooks, we got to talk about the audiobooks for this series. Oh my god, because they are duet narration. We have Lily Drake. She reads the dialogue for all the female characters, and then Anthony Palmini reads the dialogue for all the male main characters. You might recognize his name just because he read for Rhys in the graphic audiobooks of the ACOTAR series. And I feel like a lot of people had opinions on his take on Rhys. Let me just tell you, I really appreciated his Rhys. I thought that he perfectly fit the character, but to each their own. But let me just tell you, his narration as Slade in particular, mind blown. Oh my god. I was not ready. You all are not ready. Just incredible. It's just so cool. It is so cool. There are parts of Gleam, which is book 3, and then Glow, this book, that have like truly blown my mind, and oh my god, it's so good. Like, please read this series, and I really think you will thank me later because it's just so good. All right, second to last question is, what are the top 3 Romantasy books on your TBR? First and foremost, that is going to be The Serpent and the Wings of Night by Carissa Broadbent. I already know that I love her writing. I love her books so much, so I'm very excited to get into the Crowns of Nyaxia series. I have heard nothing but phenomenal things about this book and this series. This tends to be the book that most people start with when getting into Carissa Broadbent, and I am just really excited. From what I understand, this world involves vampires. I think there's like a series of trials, at least in this book, and it just sounds so good. Another series that I'm very excited about is, well, I'm really excited to jump into Melissa K. Rorick in general. She has 2 series out. The first one is the Lady of Darkness series. This one is completed, and then her other series is almost complete, I think. This series I have heard definitely has vibes of the Throne of Glass series, which you all already know is my favorite series like ever. So I'm excited for that alone. I don't need every book series I pick up to be entirely original. I am personally okay with book series taking inspiration from other book series that I love. So I am really excited about this. I think there's 5 books total in this series, and then I'll be able to jump into her other series. I'm also really excited to get into Helen Shorer's books with the Legends of Thesmar series. The first book is Blood and Steel. And I don't know too much about this series, but I have heard some of my friends rave about this series, and it just sounds like the perfect vibe that I am in the mood for. I'm definitely planning on starting these 3 series really soon. And then the last question is about your favorite Romantasy content creators that you follow. Definitely Emma and Rachel. Oh my god, they are like my top 2 Romantasy girlies that I follow. I will link both of them down in the description below. I followed Rachel first, and then I recently came across Emma's channel because Rachel was talking about a series that Emma really loved and recommended. So yeah, they are definitely like the 2 people I go to when I'm looking for Romantasy recommendations for sure. Cannot recommend their channels highly enough. So that's gonna be it for this Romantasy book tag. Oh my god, this video just made me so happy to make, because like I said, I'm just so in a Romantasy mood at the moment, and I just can't stop yapping about my love for this genre right now. So I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. I would love it if you would make this video yourself if you haven't yet. I'm tagging everyone who is watching this video. I would also love it if you would leave a comment down below if you want to answer the questions that way, if you want to give me or anyone else who is watching Romantasy recommendations. I would really love that as well. And as usual, I would love it if you would leave a like and subscribe, and I thank you so much in advance if you do. And with all of that being said, I will see you guys in the next video. Bye!